Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Crime on the Record. My name is Jason, and as always, I'm here with my wife, Candace. So, babe, you want to tell them a little bit about the show?
So, if you've listened before, welcome back. But for new listeners, each week I tell my husband about a different case. We focus on cold cases about people who have gone missing, while others may be unsolved murders. And from time to time, we may cover current cases, such as right now we've been covering the Debbie Collier case.
As always, during our podcasts, there will be some back and forth banter and some lighthearted humor, but never at the expense of the victims or their families. It's kind of a dick move, and that's not something we do at all. You can find us on Twitter at Crime on Record. If you have any questions, comments, or case suggestions, you can email us at cotrpodcast@gmail.com and also our website, cotrpod.com. With all that out of the way, babe, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight, and probably our next episode as well, will be Ellen Greenberg. I know I've mentioned this case to you before, but you probably don't even remember anything about it.
No, not really.
Yeah. The thing is, there's so much. I mean, it's a lot. So I feel like I would rather do more than one than to try to cram every single thing in as fast as we can and then, not cover it adequately.
Yeah.
Okay, so on January 26th, 2011, Sam Goldberg, a television producer with NBC, calls 911 about his fiancee, 27-year-old Ellen Greenberg. Ellen was a first grade teacher in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who was home due to a bad snowstorm that caused schools to close early that day. When she left work, she stopped for gas and arrived home at approximately 1:30. Per the investigative report completed by investigator Stephen Ozlowski, I believe is how you say his name. But you know me, I like to try to stick to any reports I can find. So we're giving accurate information. So according to his investigative report, Sam said he went to the gym in their building around 4:45 and returned between 5:15 and 5:30. And that was confirmed because they have key fobs that, kind of like at hotels, you use your little key fob to get in and out of places. And so, I guess with the strip or whatever on there, they can tell what time. You know me, I'm technology.
Yeah.
I'm not good with
No.
technology. I'm
But they can,
technologically
yeah, they
out
can
of it.
tell when the key fob was used.
Yeah, that's an easier way of saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
These
what I'm
are
here for.
some
That is what I'm
these
here
are
for.
some of those, lighthearted times where, we end up laughing, but it's mainly, because I say stupid stuff at times. Okay, so he gets back from the gym at 5:15, 5:30, and he says he unlocked the door with his keys, but when he tried to open the door, it caught on the swing bar door lock, which are like the locks that you have on the inside of the hotel rooms
Mhm.
that you can latch from the inside. And I made a note to post a pic of that on our website. So if any of you don't know what we're talking about, you can go out and see the picture. Because I guarantee you, the second you see the picture, you're going to know exactly what we're referring to.
Yeah.
He's come back from the gym. He tries to open the door. It catches in the lock. So he said that he tried to reach Ellen by text, phone, and email for approximately an hour with no response. So an hour, that's a long time. I don't know. An hour is a long time, but here, okay. So we do have copies of the text though. So they were able to recover the text between 5:32 and 5:54 with the following text. So he texts, "Hello, open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello, you better have an excuse. What the fuck? Ah, you have no idea." What does that sound like to you? That sounds scary to me.
Yeah, that's aggressive. Obviously we don't know what people would do in certain situations. So, but for me, I would expect to see text messages that didn't get increasingly aggressive, but increasingly more alarmed, concerned, worried, like, not what the fuck, but more like, what the fuck? Where are you at? Like, what is going on? Kind of thing. Like, especially because the door latch caught. And,
Yeah.
that would, and then you're not answering at all. Yeah, that would be concerning. Not, it wouldn't take me to a place of being angry.
Yeah, and then to say you have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put anything out there that's untrue, but to me, that sounds almost like an abusive relationship when somebody's like, you have no idea what you've just done.
Yeah. Well, and I
So,
mean, if you're getting more aggressive with your texts, and there's a reason why she has the door latch, that's not really going to make her want to open it.
right?
So,
Right?
I mean, that's just, I mean, that
Well,
is
now that he's
definitely
good and
odd,
pissed off, I better open up.
right?
Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah.
And for any of you who are just now finding us because of the Debbie Collier case, I just want to say this before I go on. I know that people love to be mad about something. So I'm sure that there might be somebody out there that's like, we just heard on the other case that you don't speculate. And now you're speculating. But let's say this. We do not go out speculating on outlandish theories on current cases because no one has any facts. Uh, we do speculate on cold cases and unsolved cases where there are tons of facts that the cops have released, such as the fucking text I just read. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, and our speculation is just that. We don't speculate to come up with a final resolution. So we're not speculating this could be it and then say, yes, he killed her. Or, something like our speculation is this is what could have happened, but not sure.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's a big difference between what we do and what we've seen others do here lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, we definitely try not to ever do that on an open case because no one has all the information. And I mean, you end up accusing somebody who might be going through the worst thing that's ever happened. But this is information we have. So I will get off my soapbox. So at 6:14, he calls his cousin and close friend, Camion Schwartzman. The cousin calls his father, which then leads the uncle to call Sam back at 6:26. So 6:14, he calls Camion. Camion calls his dad, and then that dad, his uncle, calls him back at 6:26. Don't know what they talked about, but I imagine it had to be something about, getting in or coming up with some kind of game plan for what was about to happen next. Because as soon as he got off the phone with the uncle, he decided to force his way in, and he stated the building security guard was present when he did this. As soon as he entered, he saw Ellen and called 911. The call time listed is 6:33 p.m. In the meantime, at 6:34, his cousin Camion arrived, and we know that because it was shown on the lobby footage that they pulled. So by the time, everybody gets there, it's not just him there anymore. Um, so according to reports, EMS arrived at 6:36, and by 6:40, they have pronounced Ellen deceased. Now, I have a transcript of the 911 call, so I'm going to read it. Now, there's one of me reading it, so I'm not going to do voices or anything, just so y'all know. But I feel like, it's very easy to tell who's who, except for the fact that there are 4 callers on this. So there's Sam. Well, it makes sense, though. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was going to.
Not all at one time. So there's
Oh,
Sam,
okay.
the 911 operator, and then the 911 operator sends him to fire and rescue. So then you have that person. And then there's a 4th person, but I have no idea who the fuck it is. It just says 4th speaker on the transcript. So I have no idea who it is. But they only say a couple things, but just so you know. Okay, so Sam calls, help. I need a blank, and blank's inaudible. Anything they couldn't figure out what he was saying. I just walked into my apartment. My fiance is on the floor with blood everywhere. What is the address? Which already annoys me with 911. I'm like, like they're so, they just seem so insensitive. Like, what's the address?
I
Not
mean,
like, are,
I
I don't
understand.
know. I get it.
I understand why that's the first question
Yeah.
because I mean, there's no way to get anybody to him unless they know where they're going. But it does come across kind of
And it is
like
probably
blunt.
very unfair of me to go by a transcript and not be able to hear it and say that. Okay, so they ask him the address 4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come. Help. 4601 now. Flat Rock? Yes, Flat Rock Road. Is this a house or an apartment? Oh no, oh no. Is this a house or an apartment? It's an apartment. Okay, what apartment number? Um, Something inaudible. And then he says, please hurry, please. So the 911 operator asks, where is she bleeding from? I don't know. I can't tell. Now, sir, you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, okay. And then he says, I don't know. I'm looking at her now. I don't know. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. And then he screams out, Ellie. I'm not about to scream out Ellie on here, okay? So I'm just telling y'all. So then the 911 operator asks, the 911 operator says, you don't know where she's bleeding from? And then he yells her name out again. And the 911 operator responds with, you can't see where the blood's coming from? I think it's her head. I think she hit her head. But before he can say anything, the 911 operator is like, might have fallen. So I guess that's what they think he said. And he says everywhere. So I think there's some crosstalk over him trying to tell them what he thinks happened and them trying to say, oh, okay, so you see blood everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so he says, Sam says, it's everywhere. The 911 operator asks, do you think she might have fallen? Yeah. Do you know what happened to her? She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple. Okay, hold for fire and rescue, or hold for rescue for her. Stay on the phone. And this is where the Philadelphia Fire Department picks up. So it says Philadelphia Fire Department 842. What's the address? 4601 Flat Rock Road. Please hurry. They repeat the address. He says yes. And then they ask, what's wrong? I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. And I see her now just on the floor, but bloody. She's not responding. Okay. Is she breathing? I can't look at her chest. I need you to calm down and I need you to look at her chest. It's really, I really don't think she is. Sir, listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back? She's on her back. Do I bring her? And before he can finish the sentence, the guy says, okay, look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down. I don't see her moving. Okay, do you know how to do CPR? I don't. Okay, I can tell you what to do, okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her flat. Oh, God. Hello? Yeah, okay. Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone until they get there? I guess I have to, right? Which did not really, I don't think that would have been my response, but okay.
All right.
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. And then he says, gosh, something. Okay, feel down by her side. And then he yells out, oh my God, Ellie, please. Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you've got to. Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Rip it off. Oh my God, she stabbed herself. Where? She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out. Her what? There's a knife sticking out of her heart. Oh, she stabbed herself? I guess so. I don't know. Or she fell on it. I don't know. Okay, well, don't touch it. Okay, so I just let her blank now. Don't know the word. The guy starts to say from fire and rescue, somebody, and then he interrupts him and says, I mean, what do I do? And fire and rescue says, oh, I mean, you can't. If this knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time. Oh no, oh my goodness. Okay. And this is where another person appears, the fourth speaker, because fire and rescue says, police, which operator? Oh, okay. So I guess it's somebody from the police department. Mm-hmm. And that person says 277. All right. And then Sam asks, is someone coming here? Fire and Rescue says, yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right? Yes. Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside? Is there what? The knife. Is it still inside of her? Yes, I didn't take it out. Is it her chest or what area does it? It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart. Okay, someone's on the way out there, okay? Just get the door open. Oh my God, oh my God. Okay, thank you. How old is she? She's 27. 27. So there's no sign of life at all? No. All right, pinch under her arm. No, please don't be. And then he's like, what? So the guy says, pinch her under her arm and tell me if she responds to pain. So then he screams out her name again and says, it's not her arm, her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere. I mean, I know, but you can't. And the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in? It looks pretty deep. Okay. It looks 3. All right. I mean, it's a long knife. And this is where the speaker, I guess, from the police department says, don't touch anything, sir. And Fire and Rescue says, yeah, don't touch anything, okay? I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this. And then Fire and Rescue says, so what? It was just you there with her? We're the only ones here. And she ran in the door, you said, and latched it shut? No, I went downstairs to work out. And when I came back up, the door was latched. Oh. Like it wasn't, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside. And I'm yelling. And I'm here yelling. And I guess, was the house broken into? No. So there's no sign of a break in. No sign of a break in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in. And then the guy verifies the address again, asks if it's a house. He says, no, it's an apartment. The guy's like, okay, that'll help. He says, all right. And then Sam says, bye. It's kind of long, but there are a few things in it that, as we're talking, I'll bring back up that kind of gives you an idea of where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the call was made at 6:33. And again, according to reports, EMS arrives at 6:36 and pronounces her deceased at 6:40.
And he got back from the gym at 5:34 or whatever.
Well, it says between 5:15 and 5:30,
Okay.
but I think it was 5:32 when he says he started trying to reach her. Yeah, 5:32 to 5:54.
And then an hour later is when he called 911. But when he was on with 911, he said he'd been home for 30 minutes. And I know during that time, when you're frantic, times can change. But 30 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. And also, think about it. I mean, that's a really short time to work out. Like, you didn't get to the gym and swipe your fob until 4:54 and you were back upstairs at 5:15 possibly. What did you do? I mean, I work out longer than that. My ass ain't going to the gym ever, hardly. So,
I mean,
just putting that out there.
I don't know. A quick mile run on the treadmill? I don't know. That's
right.
Yeah, that's not very long at all.
So when investigators arrive, they find Sam and some of his family and friends that have showed up, which is why I mentioned Camion being there. Ellen is face up with her head and some of her upper body and shoulders leaning against the kitchen cabinets. She is wearing sweatpants, Ugg boots, a t-shirt, a zip-up over the tee, and a sweatshirt over that. So she got a lot of shit on.
Good Lord.
But I will say, when you look at some of the reports, they don't always list everything. Because, like, a couple of them left the sweatshirt off, and then one left this off, and one left that off. I'm like, for fuck's sakes, people, can you not just do the report correctly? Like, get your shit together. This is what they pay you for. Like, you have to be precise in these reports. Damn.
Yeah, you do.
She has the knife sticking out of the left side of her chest, stabbed through her clothing. To the right of her body are a pair of eyeglasses on the floor, and a white kitchen towel is grasped in her left hand. In addition, they note multiple other stab wounds, a quote, few superficial wounds near the knife embedded in her chest, one to the upper left chest near her shoulder, and 2 more mid-chest between and just below the breasts. There is blood on her clothing, on her head, and in her hair. There are 2 drops of blood above her on the granite countertop, and bloods on cabinets behind her, and blood on the sole of her right boot. 2 knives are in the sink, but they look to be clean, and they later verify they are clean. They had no signs of blood or tissue. On the counter between the stove and the sink is a knife block that has been knocked over. They notate that the knife in her chest does look to have come from the set in the knife block. So to me, I would have looked at that and said, that looks like somebody yanked a knife out and knocked it over, and 2 of them fell into the sink.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really come up with another scenario for that. Again, don't know for a fact, but that would be my thing. And again, this is the report of the death investigation from the detective. So if anybody's wondering where I'm getting all this information from, they note on the report the door was forced in and the solid bar door guard is broken with the screws on the door loose. However, there is no sign of a struggle anywhere else in the apartment. They see several valuable items lying around, to include 3 laptops, and note nothing is missing. There is not a note found, but there is a, quote, paper booklet in her purse, which looks like a journal of her medications and her state of mind. The last notation dated was on the 16th. And remember, we're January. Her cell phone shows the last outgoing call was at 2:33 and lasted 30 seconds. And it appears that it was to a restaurant. Nobody knows what she called the restaurant for. Maybe it was to make a reservation, cancel a reservation. I'm not sure. There had been that snowstorm, that was coming in, which is why school closed. So I don't think she'd be making a reservation unless it was for another day. Maybe moving a reservation from that day to another day.
Or maybe seeing if they were open and they would deliver.
Yeah, could be. So that was the last outgoing call on her phone. The last missed call was a number programmed into her phone, but they redacted the name and number. So I don't know who it was from, the last missed call. The phone also shows missed calls, texts, and an email from Sam between 5:30 and 5:42. The last outgoing text is redacted, but was sent at 3:47.
So those aren't going to Sam. Because, why would they redact it if it was going to him when they told you, when they said all the other ones that were between them? So, okay.
Yeah. I imagine it's probably to I would think like a friend or something that they don't want to, involve, like putting their information in there.
Yeah, they have nothing to do with it, so,
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only way in, aside from the front door, would be the patio, but the apartment is on the 6th floor. However, they do check below and find the snow is completely undisturbed and free of any footprints. The neighbors report hearing no commotion, and there is nothing suspicious found on the lobby cameras. In the bedroom, they find 3 bottles of medication on Ellen's nightstand. So there's Xanax, Clonopin, and Ambien. The report states the identification is completed by phone with Ellen's parents, Joshua and Sandra Greenberg, and they are interviewed by phone the following morning at 7:41. And this probably does not have shit to do with it, but why did they need to call the parents to identify her? Why the fuck didn't Sam identify her? You got her purse, you got her license, her boyfriend, or fiance. The hell do you have to call her parents for?
So they identified her over the phone?
Yeah, right? It makes no sense. It just does not make sense to me.
It doesn't.
I don't understand it at all. And it said that his parents had notified them. So they already knew. So it's not like they were calling to give a death notification. They were, it states, and it says in the report, the identification was completed by phone with her parents. So I don't know. But again, it says they do interview the parents by phone the following morning. Sandra tells them that she talked to Ellen the previous morning, so the day of her death, at 7 a.m. as they were both driving to work, and that everything seemed fine. There was no indication of anything being wrong. The parents state she had been struggling with anxiety and insecurity since the end of the previous year and talked about being overwhelmed with her job. However, she had started seeing Ellen Berman, which was a psychiatrist, and had no suicidal ideation or past attempts. They described Sam as, quote, a fine young man and said they were happy to have him as a son in law. They also denied being aware of any abuse in the relationship. So then they interview the psychiatrist, Ellen Berman, by phone. She tells them she only met with Ellen 3 times. So the first time she saw her was January 12th. Then she saw her the next week on the 17th, and then 2 days later on the 19th. So, I mean, she legit, just
that's
started seeing her.
And I mean, the first appointment is just to get to know her, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not really diagnosing anything at that point, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It says that she had been scheduled for the next day on January 27th. So the day after she passed, she actually had an appointment. Ellen Berman says that Ellen originally came to see her for severe anxiety, which appeared to mostly stem from work and her not knowing whether to quit or work through it. She notated no issues of suicidal ideation and said Ellen denied any abuse and even smiled when talking of her fiancé. The doctor initially prescribed Zoloft and then switched to a low dose of Xanax. So, and it says, however, after no success, she ended up prescribing Ambien and Klonopin to help her sleep. So I'm going to guess she met with her on the 12th, put her on Zoloft, and then for whatever reason, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm a therapist, which is the only reason I'm giving my opinion on this, because I work so much with this kind of stuff and psychiatrists and giving medication. But I imagine for her to see her again the following week, she probably had some kind of side effect, I would think.
Yeah, that's
and
what I was
called.
Yeah,
And
because
so
that's one of those that has to build up in your system, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so it probably took a little while for the side effects to hit, and then she's like, "Whoa," because some of them can be bad. And
yeah, and it's really not that long. I mean, that's from the 12th to the 17th. I mean, that's 5 days.
Yeah.
So she probably called and was like, no, no, no. So she went back in. And that's when she switched her to Xanax, I would imagine. And, you know, if I'm Ellen and I go in and I've already been switched once, I'm going to be like, so what do I do if this don't work?
Mm-hmm.
So that probably initiated her coming back in a couple of days. You know, because Xanax is fast acting, so you're going to know whether or not it's working.
Yeah.
So she didn't need more than a couple of days. So again, all speculation, but I would imagine Dr. Berman was probably like, okay, well, we'll give this a couple of days and I'll see you again on the 19th, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon at all.
Not at all.
Yeah,
no.
to try and get, because I mean, you got to find the right one, and you know, you should be in constant communication with your psychiatrist to make sure that you're not getting the wrong side effects, because and as odd as it is, some of the side effects of depression medication is suicidal ideation, right?
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing too. The doctor initially prescribed Zoloft. Zoloft is widely used for anxiety. I mean, in my experience with my clients, I swear it's like the first thing every doctor writes when they go. Zoloft. And that's fine. I mean, that just clearly shows that it does work a lot for clients with anxiety. But to me, for her to switch her from Zoloft to Xanax on a low dose, and then just all she did was prescribe Ambien and Klonopin to help her sleep, that tells me Ellen was not suffering in any great way with mental health.
No.
She didn't prescribe her any other kind of SSRI, mood stabilizer, nothing. She went with a very low dose of Xanax, which ain't going to do hardly shit, let's be real. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if you got severe anxiety, a low dose of Xanax, you know, that's, I mean, that maybe take the edge off a panic attack, but, you know,
that's about it.
Right. And then to prescribe Ambien and Klonopin to help her sleep, again, that's pure anxiety to me, because to me, that's saying she can't sleep at night because she's sitting up with all this shit running through her head with being anxious. And so the doctor's like, here, try Klonopin and Ambien. Xanax is usually used short term for like occasional use because Xanax is very addictive. Not that Klonopin's not, but I mean, let's be real. Like, how many times do you hear people say, yeah, I got me some Klonopin, with drug addicts? I mean, I hear a lot more often that somebody took a bunch of Xannies or Xanax or,
Yeah.
so I mean, and a lot of times they will switch to Klonopin too because it doesn't have to like it, you take it and it lasts longer and then you take it again, so it's staying constantly in
Yeah.
your system if you have to take it. Whereas with Xanax, I mean, you're going to have to keep taking it to keep those blood levels constant, and then that just runs the risk of getting addicted. But they are both benzodiazepines, so yeah, they are in the same family of medication.
Look at you and your
Okay.
big words.
It's it's like the first time I get to use them without writing them in a freaking progress note or a treatment plan.
Uh,
Oh goodness. Okay, so the autopsy report shows the autopsy is performed on the next day, January 27th, by Assistant ME Dr. Marion Osborne. The noted cause of death listed is multiple stab wounds and the manner of death homicide. He notates some of the clothing, but fails to mention the t-shirt or zip-up shirt under the sweatshirt. So this is what I mean, like already. Like on the damn autopsy
they
thing.
they go through the process of like weighing the organs and all that other stuff, but
Right?
you're just gonna not put what she's wearing.
Yeah. It's ridiculous to me.
Wow, that. I mean, I don't want to say anything that doctors do anything wrong. Maybe why is he? Maybe that's why he's the assistant.
Oh, hell no. We ain't even got to that. Let me tell you. When we
All
get
right.
further into this story, we're going to read some letters he got of reprimand.
Oh, all
Because
right. Well, I mean,
I don't know how this motherfucker still has a job.
okay.
Honest to God, I don't. But yeah, he failed to mention the t-shirt, zip up, or sweatshirt. There are a total of 20 stab wounds. So, where we thought there were just a few, there are actually 20. 1 to the abdomen, 8 to the chest, to include the chest wound that, that they saw with the huge knife, or not huge knife, but the knife sticking out.
Mhm.
1 to the scalp, which was very deep, it looked like on the picture. Gruesome. I saw it's not even the actual picture, it's a recreation, and I'm telling you, I didn't even take a copy of it to put on our thing because I don't know that people even want to see that. It is
Mhm.
gruesome looking. And 10 stab wounds to the neck. It is stated the edges of all wounds are smooth. So what does that tell you? A smooth knife, a smooth blade,
Mhm.
Okay, just remember that. I don't know if I really need to list all these sizes, but they had them on there and I like being accurate, so I'm just going to say um, the upper right arm. So on her upper right arm is a 3 by 4 centimeter contusion, and the right forearm has a 3 by 1.5 centimeter area of 3 round contusions. And I'm sure you all know what contusions are, but for those of you who don't, they are bruises. Simply bruises. Just a big word for bruises. The lower right side of the abdomen has a 3 by 3.5 centimeter contusion. The right thigh has a vertical row of round contusions that are 2.5 by 3 centimeters, 4.5 by 3, and 5 by 6. Now, to me, I'm thinking a hand.
Mhm.
A vertical row of them. I mean, I'm not a detective, so
Yeah.
take that with a grain of salt. But above the right knee is a 4.5 by 3 centimeter area of 3 round contusions. And the bruises were all in different stages of healing.
Mm. Okay.
There were also toxicology tests done. They were all negative except for trace amounts of the prescribed medication. And if we want to get like real technical and factual about it, let me pull it up here. It says trace amounts, the Ambien, and then the other, it says less than 7.5% present. So I don't know if that means that's more or less than trace amounts, but it's barely anything, is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
she
and it's
barely has
all
any of this shit.
and it's everything that she's prescribed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, okay. Yeah. So there should be at least trace amounts of these in her system. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And those are blood and urine tests that they did. So I mean, they didn't show anything else, fentanyl, opiates. I mean, nothing like that. So at this point, I'm sure her family and friends are probably sitting back waiting for the investigation to be completed so they can find out who, killed their loved one. Because why wouldn't you?
I mean, she was stabbed that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like you tell me that my loved one's been stabbed 20 times, I'm going to assume that you're out looking for the motherfucker who killed him.
as one should.
Yeah. However, on February 18th, the ME releases an amended autopsy report changing the manner of death to suicide. How in
What?
the fuck? Suicide? I
How?
mean, right? If you figure it out, please let me know.
I
Because,
mean, because okay, 20 stab wounds.
mm-hmm,
Um, how many? Well, I mean, I'm concerned about the ME report already because of what you said. But how
right.
many of them were superficial or look like hesitation marks? Because I mean, if you're gonna stab yourself, like you got to commit. And I could
Yeah.
see if you have, if you're worried about it or whatever, you're scared to do it, there's going to be hesitation marks. But I don't think there's 19 hesitation marks and then finally you get up the courage to do it.
Ooh,
And I mean,
should I
you're
said it
going
was
through
a
the chest.
recreation?
What's that?
I said it was a recreation. I think that one actually is the picture.
Oh,
That's rough.
if you're going through the rib cage, I mean, that is an amazing amount of pressure or
Yeah,
power that you have to put behind the knife to get through all that. And there's blood spatter, because you were saying there was blood on the cabinets and the table.
exactly. And nobody's saying anything about that at this point. But to me, if there are two blood drops above her, she wasn't just sitting down and stabbed herself.
Yeah, and on her shoe.
Yeah.
So she started
So
bleeding and then walked through it, and
at
then
some point, she had to have stood in it. So it makes no sense. But there's no footprints anywhere. So it's not like she stood in it and walked. She didn't move after she stood in it. She couldn't have because there's no footprints anywhere.
okay.
Not unless somebody cleans something up. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they probably don't have any, um, you know, like luminol or anything that they used to check this shit because, the stellar job they did and all.
I just, I mean, I don't. How many suicides a year happen from stabbing yourself in the chest?
Not many. And here's another thing. Okay, so you bring up the hesitation marks. There are some looking at these photos that, and I mean, I can put some of these up. I'll give you some of them. We can decide which ones are too graphic because I mean, I
Hmm.
don't ever want to sensationalize anyone's
No, absolutely
case
not.
either. So I'm not trying to make this salacious by putting out the most gruesome photos we can. Her family, if they were to come across this, they don't need that.
No, absolutely not.
Um, but I will say, looking at some of the first ones, they're so they talk about the big one in the chest, and then around them there are some superficial what look to be like nicks.
Hmm.
But how many pieces of clothing were you going through?
Well, that's a good
So
point as
to
well.
me, it's like, were they hesitation of someone trying to work up the courage to stab themselves, or is this somebody that ain't putting enough force in to get through all those as this person's fighting at
Yeah,
some point?
yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking. And I mean, in this, obviously not all the time, but typically women don't when they commit suicide. It's not. It's usually like pills or something like that. Right? And I mean, she
Yeah,
she had enough. I mean, the Ambien alone
yeah,
would have done it.
mm-hmm,
So I mean, and then you talk about the butcher block being, kind of tipped over, and a
yeah,
couple other knives in the sink, and no, there's no way
yeah.
this is a suicide. There's no way.
And I don't, I don't have it written down here because in the reports I read, I did not notice it. But while we're talking about it, I will say that in the pictures, And I've heard in some other the prosecutors, okay, they did a great, and I'm giving them a shout out, the prosecutors podcast. They did an amazing story. Uh, I think theirs just got like, I mean, it's 6 or 8 episodes. I mean, they
Mm.
went into depth and read like every single report and all. And also, they are great because I had a question and there was something that I could not find in any single report. And I messaged them yesterday and they immediately responded and helped me out and gave me the answer. And I said, thanks so much. I read everything, couldn't find it. And they were like, no worries, it wasn't in there. So
Hmm.
I'm guessing whatever ties they have or inside, track they have with people in law enforcement, they probably were able to get that information or saw pictures I didn't see.
Is that the podcast with like a former prosecutor and a former police officer?
No,
Oh,
they're two current prosecutors.
oh, okay, okay.
Although I think she might have went into private practice recently
But
because I
either
remember
way,
them
that
joking.
they
But
have connections
yes,
to get. Okay, okay,
yes, absolutely,
that makes sense.
absolutely. So, but they were great. They were so great to help me out, and I remember them talking about this. So there were also 2 bowls of berries on the counter. It looked like she was in the midst of making a fruit salad. So, like,
As one does before they commit suicide.
right? Like,
Huh.
you're over there just cutting your berries up and you're like, you know what? I'm out.
Like that? No,
What? It just doesn't make
no,
sense.
no. It does not.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And I know before we get people that write and say that suicidal people don't act the way we think that they would a lot of times, you're absolutely right.
Hmm.
I've seen people get up, carry out their entire routine in the morning to the point of working out, going and buying, like running the errands they have, buying groceries, whatever, and then they come home and do it. So I get that. I get it doesn't make rational sense. But a lot of times when you see that, this person has already made that decision and they have felt that calm that, because they know they've made that decision. And so they carry out the things they want to get done before they're gone and then they do it. We're talking that kind of violence,
Mm.
she would have had to just snap. And what about a fruit salad makes you fucking snap?
Yeah, and
I just,
she didn't have anything. I guess maybe Ambien, but I mean, she didn't have any drugs in her system like the Zoloft or anything else that gives suicide ideation. I mean, if
mm-mm.
anything, she had something that would chill her out.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you take the berries on the counter and then you couple it with the butcher block that's knocked over, and then you add the blood spatter, and then you add where the blood is on like on her shoe, and then you add all the other stuff. That's that's why I'm in my mind. I'm like, this is not a suicide. I mean, I could see, all right, like you said, some people do go through their entire routine and then end up ending their life through suicide, but this is not, in my opinion, anyway. Hearing what you're saying, this is not one of those cases.
Yeah. I mean, it just, and, I mean, we've already said how. And as you will see when we go further into this, when they have somebody reconstruct it, it ain't looking good. Like, how is I'm looking at it like, the fuck could she have done that?
Mm.
So, okay, so the assistant and me who did the supposedly did the autopsy or his version of it, notated her spinal cord injury was evaluated by neuropathology, and it was concluded the injury would not have rendered her incapacitated. He also notates DNA analysis of bloodstains on the knife and clothing match Ellen. So I'm guessing that's what he's using on there to justify his change. But it is my understanding that the reason he went back and changed it is because the police came back to him and said something about the door being closed and having to be kicked in. And
And
so he's like, oh, well, nobody, I mean, she was in there by herself then. Suicide
I mean, are okay. So the door latch, is that the big hang up here?
for a lot of people.
Okay, you know how easy it is to close the door and latch it behind you, and then how
Yep.
easy it is to open.
Mhm.
I mean, like you just Google it, and
Yeah.
there's YouTube, you know, and there's YouTube videos that show you how to do it. It's not
Yeah.
hard. It's not hard at all.
Absolutely. I mean, think about if you close it too hard. I mean, I've heard of people saying that they know people that work at hotels and they keep little like magnet things to pull the latch back over because they constantly have people check out and they got so much weight carrying their luggage out that they just let the door slam behind them and it
Hmm.
pops that latch.
Yeah, I mean, then that means
So
nothing to me.
it
That,
doesn't to me either.
if anything, it's more suspicious that it's on there.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
no, those things they're super easy to latch, no matter which side of the door you're on, and
Hmm.
because I mean, it's just meant there to slow somebody down. If you, I mean, if you
I mean,
open your,
really.
I mean, you open your door part way and somebody wants in there in your house, that latch or that chain is not going to stop them.
Mm-mm.
So,
I mean, really, the only reason that I see having one is for hotel purposes. And
mm.
the only reason that they have them in hotels, or in my opinion, to my knowledge, the only reason they have them is so that if you forget to put out the little card, housekeeping ain't coming flying in on your naked ass in there. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying,
I
like,
mean, because or if we had one at home, because when we open the door, the dog's trying to run out. But
oh, yeah,
for
that's
us,
true.
for security, that is, I mean, that's no, that
Mm-mm.
it's not a deterrent. It doesn't slow anybody down to do anything. So, I mean, that it's
Yeah.
more suspicious to me that it's not a suicide with that latched. Because I
Mm,
mean, it sounds like somebody trying to stage a scene to make it look like nobody else was in there with her. But
mm.
that's just my opinion.
I mean, right? Okay, so obviously, as you would imagine, the family's outraged. And
Mm-hmm.
this begins their ongoing fight to have her case reopened. So the family decide to have a private pathologist, Dr. Cyril Wecht, look at the case. So Dr. Wecht, I don't know if you have ever heard of him because I know you're just now, starting to read a lot on true crime, but
We both know the answer
he
to that.
he's very well known.
Okay.
He's consulted on cases such as JFK, Elvis, Kurt Cobain, and John Benet Ramsey, to name a few, and has done over 14,000 autopsies. Now, I will say this about Dr. Wecht. They say if you need somebody that will, you know, check off on a conspiracy theory, he's your man. 'Cause- so I don't know. If it were Dr. Wecht alone, I mean, okay, I could see maybe being like, whatever.
I mean, I
Um,
could see it being, you know, it, I could see somebody coming in and changing it from homicide to suicide, and that'd be the conspiracy theory, but
yeah,
not
yeah,
the other way.
yeah. So his report, dated January 11th, 2012, stated the following: suicidal stab wounds can rarely be multiple. In those that do use this method, cutting of the throat or wrists are often seen, with the most likely stab wound being one to the chest. Stab wounds to the back are unlikely to be suicide. I feel like I could be a pathologist. This is all like common sense stuff, I feel like. But
Why would you have to say stab wounds to the back are not suicidal?
I mean, she was stabbed in the back of the head and the back of the neck, and they still were fucking putting suicide. So I'm guessing like he feels like he needs to like dumb it down for people.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm I'm going to show you some of these, and we can put a couple of them up. You're going to see where these wounds are. I don't know how anybody could contort themselves to have stabbed themselves in these places. I don't. I don't even know how they would do it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the best shape, so maybe that's just me. Maybe if I did some more yoga, I could, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know, but it's not a suicide. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
yeah, it sounds so sketchy as hell to
I
me.
mean, especially since this so-called medical examiner changed it, not based on anything medical. Oh, there's a door latch. Oh yeah, then definitely homicide or definitely suicide. What? No,
Mm-hmm.
no. That's
Yeah. Um, Her particular stab wounds to the back of the upper neck and lower head were unlikely suicidal wounds, especially due to the different directions, i.e., left to right, straight, right to left, and then some were vertical and some were horizontal. So we're talking like just all over. Like that
So
does not sound like suicide to me.
it sounds to me like somebody that is trying to stab somebody who's fighting back,
Mm-hmm.
which would be why there's different angles that they're coming
Yeah.
in at. Okay, all right.
And I get that the huge argument is that there weren't defensive wounds on her, but how do we know how this person was holding her? Like if they have her pinned up in the corner of these cabinets, maybe she couldn't get her hands free to fight back. Or how do we know that they didn't render her unconscious and then start stabbing her and then she woke up? I mean, I just don't think that that's a good enough reason to come up with suicide as your option. Back to Dr. Wecht. He was also concerned about the fact that she was stabbed through her clothing, as most people typically remove the clothing and stab directly into their skin. He ended his report by saying, quote, "It is my professional opinion that the manner of the death of Ellen Greenberg is strongly suspicious of homicide." Later on that year, and in 2013, there were reprimands given to the original ME, Marlon Osborne. I will read a couple of them to you so you will have an idea of what this sounds like.
And to make sure that you're not making this up.
Exactly. Okay, here is the first one. It is dated July 24th, 2012, from Dr. Gary Collins. I imagine he's his boss's boss, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
his boss is this Galeno. Dr. Galeno is like the head ME. So this Dr. Gary Collins must be somebody over that.
Yeah, and I would imagine if you're gonna reprimand a medical examiner, it's gonna have to go through more than just your immediate supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they selected reports from 2009 to 2011, which, remember, she passed in 2011. And they included a variety of cases. It says the purpose of the review is to identify the presence of significant deficiencies and provide recommendations for future case management and report preparation in an attempt to ensure that acceptable report preparation is performed on all reports in the future. So they gave some examples of some of the things that he had put incorrectly. So, one case, the cause of death was delayed complication of gunshot wounds. It says the report reveals a discrepancy in the description between the surgery and trauma to the intestines and the liver. So basically, it goes on to say a bunch of stuff, but basically, he was shot, had surgery. They were unable to keep him alive. So he passed away from the gunshot wound.
Mm-hmm.
But he did not differentiate what wounds came from the original shot as opposed to the trauma from the surgery, I guess. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's like immediately what should be on there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So the second example, cause of death, stab wound to chest. It says the end of the external examination contains the sentence, "The body has no external evidence of recent significant trauma injury." And then they say, considering the decedent died of a stab wound to the chest, this sentence is inaccurate.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, the third example, multiple gunshot wounds. First paragraph from the examination states that some of the ribs have no fractures. And then he just puts my recommendation is similar to the recommendation of the one above. So apparently basically saying like they have to have fractures. He was shot in the chest. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, blunt force head trauma did not record description of the examination of the back to document the presence or absence of trauma. I guess he just notated things on the front of the
Mm.
body, nothing on the back, whether there was or was not anything. And you got to think, these are murder investigations, so these are
Yeah.
going to trial.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they're human. So I mean, they're going to miss things and they're, documentation or whatever. Okay, I get that, but not that much.
Mhm.
Because you're right. I mean, some of these things could end up, it could free a murderer
Yeah.
because you didn't do this properly. And, if it was several years ago, you're not going to be able to do the autopsy again,
Right?
So there are, there are certain jobs that if you fuck it up once, that's all you get one chance. And I
Yeah.
mean, like I wouldn't want an airline pilot to get caught drinking and flying and then just get a reprimand. No, you're done being a pilot.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, this
Like,
is one
sorry,
of those.
buddy.
Yeah, this is one of those jobs where
Mhm.
the and this is not. Oh, you forgot to notate a few things. I mean, this is like seriously
Yeah.
changing an investigation potentially
The
mistakes.
next one, gunshot wounds, he put that the wound was, let's see, sections of the report has penetrating gunshot wound of the back. The wound was in the torso, the front of the torso. Uh,
Yeah, and
okay.
so
So
with that one,
unless
that
and let me just say, if any of this is incorrect in the way I'm reading it, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say I'm not infallible here. I may be
yeah.
not understanding some of this, but I feel like I'm getting the gist of it.
But but that's one that could put somebody in prison if
Mhm.
somebody is saying that they were coming at him and it was self-defense, but the ME says, well, the bullet entered in the person's back. I mean, that could potentially put somebody in prison that shouldn't
Mhm.
be there. So yeah, this shit's got to be right all the time.
And I mean, there's several other ones that are like gunshot wounds that no documentation of the clothing or perforations to the clothing, no documentation of the presence or absence of gunpowder residue. Like, this is, I feel like that's day one shit with a
Yeah,
gunshot wound.
yeah. Mm,
It is just ridiculous. But what was even more ridiculous to me was the way they chose to end this letter. Because to me, I'm like you, some shit you got to get right. So I feel like, and I'm not, the most diplomatic person, but I feel like the end of mine would have been like, get a box, pack your shit, good luck at the next place.
I mean,
Don't call for a recommendation. No, no,
yeah.
no, no. The end of this one says, and there's 11 case examples. I didn't go through all of them. There were 11 examples
So in
from
three
this
years,
random review they did.
so in 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
random review, they found 11 issues with cases.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's not just being human.
And it
That's
just
negligent.
says a variety of cases. So we don't even know how many. How many they pull? 20, 30, 11? I mean, we
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But the bottom of it says, on a positive note, okay, first of all, what's positive about this shit? There's no positive. But
Hmm.
this is scary. Um, on a positive note, I have noticed improvement in the overall style of the more recent autopsy reports for the cases that occurred later in 2011. So I'm like,
But
wow, so he got a little better at his writing, so you're okay? It says, it is my hope that this memo serves as a guide to help you produce accurate and precise documentation. Included with this memo is a copy of the Forensic Autopsy Performance Standard as prepared by the National Association of Medical Examiners. Please do not hesitate to seek advice from myself or any of the pathologists with any concerns you may have. Please be advised this will be the last informal coaching session regarding the quality of your reports and documentation.
a
The
coaching
fuck?
session?
Yeah. This
N-
is a coaching session. You're
No,
fucking up files right and left, and that's a coaching session.
but you're getting better.
But you're getting better at your report writing a
I
little.
mean,
They've been a little better.
and I would assume that in medical examiner orientation that the standards set forth by I would think that the basically the board of medical examiners and how to do a forensic autopsy, that's day one. Like that's orientation to how
Right?
you do this. So, I mean, and like I said, people are human. They make mistakes, but you can't make that many mistakes. Hell, when I
Mhm.
worked at the bank, if we had that many mistakes, we're getting fined, and we're changing a lot of stuff to include people. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and that's working at a financial institution. So you got this guy that could potentially lead to murderers being, freed, or at least appeals happening, and that many, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, hey, do better, but we'll talk
Oh, this
later.
isn't the only reprimand, though.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, not in the least. So that was July 24th, 2012, right? On August 31st, 2012. So,
So the
how,
next
how
month?
long is that? Yeah, right? Yeah. You noticed that, huh? You caught that? Okay.
Well, it's hard not to.
So he gets another letter from Dr. Collins. It says, due to a non work related injury, you were granted an extended medical leave from June 28th until August 27th. Prior to your being out on leave, Dr. Galeno and myself had discussions about making sure all of your outstanding cases had the autopsy reports completed, whether the report was finalized or not. You assured us that all of your outstanding dictations would be completed prior to your absence. To ensure that the paperwork was completed, you were removed from the autopsy rotation to give you the necessary desk time to perform these duties. By the end of our discussion, you made it clear that your dictations would be completed. It has been brought to my attention that 17 cases were discovered to have either incomplete autopsy reports or inaccurate information contained therein.
Okay, so now we're looking at a total of 29 cases that he messed up in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And not
since you said
only,
there's
it says in
more.
here, not only did you not complete them, nor did you inform either of us of the incomplete reports so that we could make arrangements to have the cases completed. So the thing is, look at how much leeway they're giving this person. Like, they're telling him, if you just tell us, we'd have done the shit for you,
Yeah,
basically.
this is not a job where you get a lot of leeway.
I mean, damn.
I mean, and there's some mistakes that you make that you don't you get to make once and then you're gone. But I mean, we're talking 29 cases now.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It
assume he kept
says,
his job because, there's
oh, he
probably
did.
more.
There's more. So, there's some more verb. I'm not going to read all of it, but then it goes down and says, in an attempt to complete the pending and unsigned cases that were left after you went on medical leave, we discovered further errors and discrepancies, some of which were very severe and could have grave consequences for the family. There were 4 cases from 2012, one in March, one in April, two from May, in which the causes of death were unpended in CME, whatever that is, but the reports were not finalized and signed and turned over for review. As a result, these cases could have been completed and death certificates sent out, but were delayed because you did not complete the case in its entirety. Um, During the review of your cases, the following trends were observed. You are not routinely describing postmortem changes, such as rigor mortis or liver mortis. Isn't that like, I mean, words you hear on
Mm.
every fucking crime show you've ever seen? Like, that's important shit.
Yeah, and before you continue, like, not only is he potentially, making mistakes that could lead to, inaccurate trials or criminals getting out or whatever, but you're also just not issuing death certificates on time. So you could be talking about,
Yeah.
a single mother now who relied on her husband because she stayed home with the kids and he worked, which is cool. But now, because you
Yeah.
took forever to get the death certificate out there, she may have been foreclosed on by the time
Right?
waiting on life insurance. So it's not just criminal stuff. It's also like you're really messing with people's lives all over the place.
Exactly.
God damn.
Description of postmortem changes should be a routine component of all autopsy reports. I really don't know that they should have had to tell him that in any way.
Yeah.
Um, some things he was not checking the boxes on death certificates. Some of them sound kind of like, did tobacco contribute to death? He didn't leave it, or he left them blank.
Mm. Well,
I guess,
but
okay, but that could be.
I
A big
mean,
deal.
there are life insurance policies that state if you use tobacco that they won't pay out. So him not marking that as a yes or no, if he didn't mark it as no, the insurance company could potentially fight that and not pay the claim. Yeah, that's super important that you do that. I but I would think that anything you do as a medical examiner is super important.
Yeah, because it says in the early part of 2012, you will recall we had coaching sessions on your homicides. So I'm guessing that one little letter wasn't the only coaching session. During these sessions, I highlighted the importance of proper and adequate documentation. Then they talked about the review and him not notating the presence of gunpowder or things on the clothing. And it says the main reason we examine the clothing is to look for the presence of bullet holes and gunfire residue, which should be documented in our reports. This case in question was, and he gives the case number. As a result, you will review all of your gunshot wound homicides and the clothing to ensure that proper documentation of the presence or absence of gunfire residue is made, and the appropriate addendum will be made to these reports. And then he just goes on to talk about some other things. Even more serious and dangerous flaws in your work were evidenced in case, and it gives case number, which has been pending since January 2012. Review of the photographs and circumstances clearly shows that there is evidence of strangulation and that the manner of death is a homicide. The autopsy photographs clearly show a ligature mark around the neck and petechia of the eyes. Your report reads, the conjunctiva has no petechia. That's fucking huge.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what?
See, and I will say it again, people make mistakes,
Wow.
but not in this job and not that many. Like, and this all sounds like when he's talking about you will, mark the correct thing for gunshot resident. That sounds like day one stuff. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we're gonna go through this form and I'm gonna show you exactly how you do it. You gotta make sure you mark this, gotta mark this. Yeah. Like this is
Yeah.
not I've been doing autopsies for a while by myself.
There's another one. He left cause of death pending. It says autopsy photographs show a large liver laceration and subcapsular hematoma. In his report, he didn't even put any of that. I mean, he just basically it said he made no mention of the liver laceration. So just didn't even,
Okay.
fuck it, leave the liver out. I got to go. It's time for dinner. I
Okay.
mean, it's ridiculous. And it even says, I have received telephone inquiries from this family regarding the final cause and manner of death of their relative. I mean, considering that we have had discussions and numerous coaching sessions about the need to have accurate and timely preparation of reports, this document serves as a written reprimand for the deficiencies you have displayed. Goes on, says a bunch of other stupid shit that don't matter. But then at the end, gets all super fucking nice again and says, I believe you have the ability to be a great forensic pathologist. I have seen you do outstanding work on your cases in the past, so I know that you can do it. I mean, this sounds like a fucking little league coach. You got this, buddy.
Right. And here's the thing too. We're not talking about some little bitty town in the middle of South Dakota where there's only a couple people that could be the medical examiner. We're talking about Philadelphia.
Fucking Philly.
There's
You know how much
enough people
crime
that
goes
could,
on there?
yeah, but there's enough people that could take his place that will do the job correctly. So I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
not even a situation where we don't have enough people to fill the spot, so we got to do what we, we got to do
Yeah.
the best of what we can. No, no, this is no, just no.
I've only got one more thing as far as he is concerned to read in the reprimand, and then I think that's probably a good place to stop for today because we're already over an hour and I got a lot more to go into.
Okay.
But so the last one is just an email, and this one is from the Dr. Sam Galino, and he CC'd Dr. Gary Collins. So I'm guessing that is his boss. And again, to Dr. Osborne, I was contacted by the chief of trauma surgery at AEMC to let me know about a serious issue that has occurred at their hospital with regard to a homicide victim. While I was gathering information about this, I learned that Chris had been notified of this matter several days ago and that he had notified you about it as the case doctor. However, I am discouraged to see that neither you nor Chris documented anything about this in the CME, which I'm guessing is the case report.
Yeah.
It is completely unacceptable that this information was not recorded. Furthermore, since the information provided was about a physician continuing to dissect and examine the body even after the person was dead, which may amount to evidence tampering, you should have recognized the need to notify me about this so that the issue could be referred to the DA's office. So this motherfucker, I mean, straight up legit fucked a case probably. And then
Uh,
it just says, I expect you to take this case as an opportunity to rethink and improve your practices with regard to documentation.
this right here is the reason why when you're following a case and all of a sudden the DA drops charges and you're like, what the fuck? Why are you dropping charges? Because of stuff like this.
Because of a fucking Dr. Osborne.
Yeah, he need like good lord, like no, he just no. I couldn't trust anything he's ever done
No.
from the day he started until the day he. Please tell me he's not still there.
I don't know that I can tell you that.
Jesus Christ! But I mean, you can't trust anything this guy says.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
In any other job, they would have been fired already.
As you should be.
Yeah, I mean, you'd been gone. It wouldn't matter what it was.
But no, they have that little league coach type mentality. You got this, buddy. Just
No.
work a little harder. I know you can do it. I mean, I don't know how anybody could be upset with Ellen's family having fucking questions about him changing the shit from homicide to suicide. Do we really not question his fucking judgment? Because I do.
Yeah. I mean, now it makes sense to me as to why he was just like, oh, okay, and changed it based on, evidence that has nothing to do with the body. Because I mean, well, he doesn't pay attention to it anyway. So,
And he don't give a shit, clearly.
yeah, clearly he does not care. I don't know how you work in the medical examiner's office and not care.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand after several years it could get routine, and kind of you get numb to the whole homicide stuff, but you still take your job seriously and you do it the right way because people's lives are
Yeah.
at stake and families that are seeking justice, that's at stake. I mean, there's so many things, and not even
And
criminally, just also personally. Like we're
yeah.
talking with the life insurance and stuff. Good. Gee, I
And
just
the
don't get it.
absolute saddest part to me is how many families even know about this? Like, we know about this because Gavin Fish was able to get all this documentation through, I'm going to guess, it having to be public record with all the court cases and shit that have come about because of this. But had that not happened, would this family even know? Would any of those families know that he had been reprimanded in their relative's case?
And see, and I'm not a proponent for putting people's performance out there if it's mistakes that they made that are coachable and fixable and are not detrimental to a case. This should 100% be public record.
This is
as
gross
to the reason
negligence.
why, as to the reason why you got fired. And we're going to go ahead and let the whole world know. That way you never get into a job like this ever again.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely insane.
I mean, I don't ever even want to visit Philly because if I die there, I'm fucked. Like, nobody's ever going to know what happened.
Well, if I get tired of you, we're going to go to Philly.
I mean, that would probably be the best place to take somebody.
This is just...
Because they ain't going to catch you.
This is
not if
okay.
Dr. Osborne's ass is working that day.
This is not okay.
It's not in the least. Stay tuned for our next episode, and then we will see where Dr. Osborne is at now. I mean, I said 2 shows.
No,
it might take 3, but I think we can push out in 2.
I'm gonna have questions. Like,
okay,
this might be 3. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay.
If you guys have any questions or comments or anything about the case, or you just want to tell me how much or how mean I am, I guess we'll say, or whatever, email us at cotrpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, Twitter, Crime on Record. And make sure you subscribe because, like, if you can't believe this shit, neither can I. Like, I'm hearing all this for the first time. So if you are too, or you just want to hear more, make sure you subscribe because there's at least going to be one more episode, probably 2. I don't know. And then also, like we said at the beginning, we're covering the Debbie Collier case on our YouTube channel.
And we have just started looking into the possibility of there being a serial killer in Stockton, California. Don't know if we'll have much info on that because they don't have much info, but if we know, you'll know.
Yeah. And that's on our YouTube channel. But if you go to cotrpod.com Everything you need is out there under the Crime on the Record tab. And with that, we'll be back next week with the next episode on this case. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.